Welcome, trainers, to our first episode of Pokémon Jeopardy. I'll be your host, Professor Lorax. The Pokémon franchise has been around for 29 years now, and what better way to utilize that collection of content than by testing your knowledge on everything Pokémon. Now, this video is designed for you to play along as we go, so you can use whatever rules you like. My suggestion would be to use the typical Jeopardy rules, but I can't exactly enforce that. And just so you're aware, there will be a 5-second pause after each clue is read to give you time to answer. So without further delay, let's check out the categories for episode 1. We have Who's That Pokémon? This is where I'll give you a classic style Pokémon silhouette, and you tell me who it is. Then it's Pokémon Trainers, Pokémon Games, where we look at the mainline video games, the Pokémon trading card game, and finally, Pokémon the animated series. So grab something to keep score, and let's get started with the 5 easiest questions in our game. The Pokeball round. We're starting off with Who's That Pokémon for 200. Can you tell who this is? What better way to start off a Pokémon Jeopardy series than with the face of Pokémon? It's Pikachu! Let's try Pokémon Trainers. The original Rock-type gym leader. He was also Ash's longest-running travel companion. The answer is, of course, Brock. We have Pokémon Games for 200, a Game Boy Pokémon game that allows your starter Pokémon to follow you around the overworld. I don't think anyone would complain if they gave us this feature in every game. We're looking for Pokémon Yellow version. Let's see what the TCG has in store for us. The Pokémon missing from this card. We are looking at the universally popular Bubble Mew card. I kick myself for not buying this when it first came out. It seems like the price goes up $100 every month. Now for our last question in the Pokeball round. We have Pokémon the animated series for 200. This trainer's Mega Charizard repeatedly defeated Ash's Greninja. The resolution of this storyline still frustrates me. Ash had the type advantage and still lost. The trainer in question here is Alon. We move on to the 400-point round. Hopefully you'll recognize this one. Who's that Pokémon? The poster child of Ghost-type Pokémon. It's Gengar! We move on to Pokémon Trainers for the second time. This regional champion always has a Garchomp by her side. The correct answer is Cynthia. Anyone who says they beat her in the first game playthrough without using a guide is lying. Speaking of, now for a game category. These Pokémon games never received a follow-up deluxe version or a DLC. We're looking for Pokémon X and Y. There were plans for a Pokémon Z that seem to have been carried over to Pokémon Sun and Moon with the Zygarde quest, and of course we're about to get that new Legends game at some point. Trading cards for 400. A special type of Pokémon card that interacts with a Game Boy accessory to provide more information about a Pokémon. Those are called e-reader cards. I wasn't into the cards when this first came out, but now I'm thinking about getting one just to play with and scan a few cards. Next we have the animated series. One of Ash's traveling companions in the Hoenn region that wasn't quite old enough to be a Pokémon trainer. We're talking about Max. Every time he would befriend a Pokémon, I was on the edge of my seat thinking someone would give him a Pokéball. But of course, they really stuck to that rule of not getting a Pokemon until you're 10. Let's move on to the 600-point round by asking, Who's that Pokemon? We've officially left the Gen 1 silhouettes. Here we have a Heracross. Are you ready for this next trainer? A member of the Elite Four in both Johto and Kanto. The correct answer is Bruno. If you were thinking Lance, he's the champion in Johto, no longer a member of the Elite Four. We've officially reached the halfway point. Let's go to games for 600. The champion and Emerald version. Just a gym leader in Ruby and Sapphire, this water-type trainer steps up big time in Emerald. We're looking for Wallace this time. How well do you know your cards? Let's try this one. A nickname given to the most valuable card in the Evolving Sky set. Probably the most popular and well-known card in the last few years, we're talking about the Moonbryon. Let's finish up the 600-point round with Pokémon Anime. This trainer defeated Ash in the Indigo League. That would be Richie.
But it may be my only chance to win. Hang in there, Sparky!
Probably Ash's most embarrassing loss. He had the stronger team, but Charizard just wasn't listening. The stakes are even higher, starting off the 800-point round with a mystery Pokémon. Who's that Pokémon? It's Maractus. You could kinda see the cactus shape here, so hopefully it wasn't too wild of a guess for you. Who's gonna be our next trainer? This fire-type specialist runs a gym with his two brothers. Obviously, Silent is the most memorable, but he does have those two brothers. Chili is the trainer we're talking about here. Pokémon Games for 800. This special gift Pokémon was only obtainable in the Sun and Moon special demo version. The answer is Ash Greninja. This might be a hot take, but I was so hyped for these games, I did the whole demo thing and got the Ash Greninja, only for the games to be the biggest letdown. I know a lot of people love them, but this was just too many changes from the typical game style for me. Let's move on to trading cards for the 4th time. The last set printed by Wizards of the Coast. Skyridge is what we're looking for here. Good luck trying to complete a master set with this. Skyridge was drastically short printed in the middle of a licensure transition. Back to the animated series for 8. A Pokemon that Jesse accidentally traded away to obtain Wobbuffet. I was a little thrown when they didn't undo this, but Wobbuffet did eventually become an icon. We're in the endgame now. It's time for the Master Ball round, the most difficult set of Pokemon questions you've ever seen. But not really. Let's start off by asking that age-old question for the 5th time today. Who's that Pokemon? This nondescript, forgettable Pokemon from Gen 3 is Spinda. Here comes your final clue for the trainers category. This Unova champion uses a variety team. Maybe it's just me, but the build-up through the game made this guy feel epic. I'm of course talking about Alder. We're moving on to Pokemon Games for 1000. A glitch Pokemon whose appearance allows you to duplicate items. The name of that Pokemon is missing no. You know this is how most of your Pokemon made it to level 100 back in the day. Here comes your final clue about the TCG. This is when Pokemon TCG started using silver borders as the default on cards. That change took effect in March 2023. If you said at the start of Scarlet and Violet, I guess we'll count that too. Final clue on the board before Final Jeopardy. Let's dive back into Pokemon the Animated Series one more time. A trainer that travels with a Meowth who wears boots and a hat. And this final trainer in question is Tyson. Does anybody else think it's weird that Meowth can use electric attacks? So there you go, 25 clues down. Add up those point totals, see who's winning if you're competing, and prepare for Final Jeopardy. You'll need to decide how many points you want to wager based on the category you're about to see. The very first Final Jeopardy category is Pokeballs. Make those wagers. Alright, and here we go with the final clue of the game. This Pokeball expert, who lives in the Johto region, can craft custom Pokeballs out of apricorns. And time is up. You may not be super familiar with this character, but he even appears in the animated series for a short stint, actually crafting the lure ball for Ash that he goes on to use for capturing his Totodile. The correct answer to this Final Jeopardy clue is Kurt. Hopefully you managed to get that one right, and maybe you even doubled your score if you wagered enough points. Feel free to show off and share those scores in the comments. That's going to wrap it up for our first episode of Pokemon Jeopardy! If you like what you saw, subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified when the next episode drops. And you can always check out our collection of Pokemon Trivia shorts while you're waiting.